Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all here. We're in for a pleasant evening to hear from some wonderful Wooten alum, and I'm very happy to be here being a moderator with you all. My name is Nick Hitchens. I'm the 10th grade administrator this year at Wooten.
And I'm the co-monitor. My name is Brad Runner. I'm one of the assistant principals, and I'm the 9th grade administrator. Just wanted to say hello to everyone out there.
Sure. So in just a moment, I would love it if all our former students would go ahead and introduce themselves. I think it would be great to hear your name, where you're going to school, if you have a major yet or a concentration or an interest. We would love to hear that too. And then I believe we'll open up for some questions and answers from our audience here. Let's see, should we go in alphabetical order? Osagie, you want to start things off?
Yeah, sure. My name is Osagie. I attend the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I graduated from Wooten in 2020, so I'm currently a freshman, and I'm majoring in neuroscience with minors in chemistry and computer science.
Hi, my name's Lauren. I'm after tomorrow, I'll be halfway through my sophomore year at Penn State. I'm a psych major and a child maltreatment and advocacy studies minor. I think I answered everything. If I forgot something, I'm sorry.
My name is Holly. I am a sophomore at the University of Maryland, and I'm currently studying elementary education.
My name is Dajah. I am also a sophomore. I graduated from Wooten in 2019. I am a psychology and Spanish double major religious studies minor at Spelman College, which is an HBCU in Atlanta, Georgia.
Right, so what was the most challenging transition from high school to college with studying? That's my first question. Was it more? Was it less? How did you manage that? Who wants to answer that one?
I can answer that question. For me personally, it was definitely, once you get to college, you have a lot of open time in your schedule. So you really, just kind of want to slack off and, say I'll do it later. But you really do need to manage your time because it is not a lot more, but a decent amount of work. And it's definitely different than high school. So I would definitely say try not to procrastinate and use your time as best as you can.
I agree. Time management was the biggest challenge for me to adjust to because we get to basically choose our own schedules. So freshman year, last semester, I thought I was being smart. I made all my classes after 1 p.m. So like I slept till 12, got up late, did all my classes. Then I realized I just did not have enough time to study because I had so much freedom that I didn't realize that if I don't like hunker down and actually do my work, it's never going to get done. So eventually I learned to wake up early. So I've been waking up at like 10, 11. So it's better.
That was good. I was going to ask, what is early in college? And you answered that. So I appreciate that. Thank you. 10 a.m. is early in college. That's what I'm hearing. Excellent. Do we have any other another question from the group that they would like to unmute or chat? I see a chat.
So we have a question in the chat. The question is how to decide on a university and what are some criteria to keep in mind while choosing. Also, does university ranking really matter? And so this is a question for any of our panelists.
I can give some input because this was a big thing for me initially. So just for background, I initially wanted to go to UCLA, which is a large school, and I ended up at Spelman, which is a school that has less students than Wooten currently does. So what the big deciding factor was, and a few questions that I had to ask myself was, what did I want to be a student where my professors didn't really care if I showed up and if they didn't even know me by name? Or do I want to walk in and have it be sort of a similar situation to what high school is like, where the professor knows you and actually has time to sit with you if you need that? And being someone who wasn't always the most academically strong, I tried, right? But that doesn't mean I always got the grades I desired. I knew that it was important for me to have the latter option of being able to go to my professor, have them know my name, and actually have the time to sit down with me. So I think it's important to ask yourself, do you want to be kind of just a number at your school and be okay with that? Or do you want to be a part of a smaller institution? As well as location is a big thing that I did not consider initially. So I will mention that because I'm now kind of not regretting my decision about where to go, but I wish I knew the area itself a little bit better, because I thought I'd be spending a lot more time on campus, but then you kind of get sick of it and you're like, all right, well, I want to see something else for a change. And then if the area is not that great, then it can be harder to feel at home somewhere so far away. And I'll just say also geographical location is also important. And then in terms of ranking, I think ranking is only important for what you want to go for. If you know what you're going to school for, obviously you probably wouldn't pick like an art school if you know you want to go into tech, right? So not to say like, oh, you have to go to the number one school on the top of the list. Like that doesn't matter as long as you're going to school for something that actually has what you're looking for. And yeah.
Any other panelists want to jump in and add their 2 cents?
I can speak on that because I had actually like the opposite decision making. The schools that I started with were way smaller. Like I was looking at Ithaca, which is definitely not as small as Spelman, but compared to Penn State, it looks tiny. And then I realized that I wanted a Big Ten school because of football and how large it was. And I agree, geographical location is definitely big, because especially if you want like a warmer place, a lot of people go to Florida. And for me, my last like 2 I was picking between was Penn State and Indiana, and I like that Penn State was only 3 hours away and you could drive there. So to me, that was really important. And I agree. I think if you're looking at rankings, I think that's someone who's really striving for maybe like an Ivy League, or like you're looking at a specific major, like maybe you would look best schools for psychology, or like people who came from the school who are now in this job. So yeah.
When and how did you decide what you want to study?
I can answer this. I mean, I kind of always knew that I wanted to be a teacher just because I did grow up, you know, obviously around so many different teachers. But I think, I think with college, like even if you go in undecided, that is perfectly okay, because there's so many different electives and other classes that you can take to figure out what you like, what works best for you. So yeah, you still have your freshman year once you get into college to figure that out. So it really helps, you know, if you have an idea, but it's not really that big of a deal if you don't, you know, you can figure it out.
For commute, if you mean like how far away you have to go, like if you're living on campus, that just depends on you. So North Carolina is only 4.5 hours away, so I can drive there pretty easily, like when I'm moving in. But like if I were to go to school in California, I would have to fly. So that's all based on personal preference. But then if you're talking about actually commuting to college, like UMD, driving there every day and then living at home, that's also depending on you. If you can drive and if you want to take 1 hour or 1 hour there, 1 hour back out of your day every day to drive to work. It's just a personal preference.
Well, thank you. Thank you for both of you guys for answering the commuting question. Another great question is just, you know, and this one's about how did Wooten prepare you? So like, how did Wooten prepare you to interact with, you know, your teachers, your professors when you got to your new school? So does anyone want to maybe kind of relate your experiences from Wooten and how you used it at your college?
I can quickly say that so thinking back to high school, I remember thinking like, this is so much work. Like, I don't understand how this, like, I'm supposed to go to college after this. Like, this feels like a lot of work. But getting to college and seeing like people who went to different schools really shows you how not only rigorous, but how well structured, I guess you could say, the system at Wooten is. Because looking at myself and other students, I was so well prepared for college that coming in felt like a cakewalk. Like, it didn't feel like anything crazy to adjust to. It didn't feel shocking at all because I was like, oh, this is what we've been doing. Like, this is regular. Like, I genuinely felt like it was a smooth transition into college because I wasn't shocked by how much I had to study. I was used to coming into school early to get math help, going to math class, coming into another math class, like because I needed more help, and then staying after school to get more math. Like, that was regular. And so to come from Wooten to college, it felt easy. And in terms of communicating with professors, I think Wooten also set me up well for that because they expect you to communicate with your teacher if you need something. They're not going to hound you. Most teachers are not going to hound you for your homework. They're not going to say, why haven't you done this yet? Or when are you going to get this to me? They're not going to do that. They expect something of you. And I think when you rise to the level of the expectation that Wooten has for you, college is not going to be as hard as, I'll say, the movies or the TV shows make it out to be, because they have a college mindset, I'll say, at Wooten. And so it's not so hard. I think we're set up well as Wooten graduates.
Thank you so much for that response. There is a glaring question that maybe this is for a response from every panelist. I think some of our audience wants to know, are you in person? Are you virtual right now? Is it a combination of both? So maybe we could go around all four of you guys and you can just kind of let us know where you're at right now with your college.
I can go first. So at UMD, we did the first 2 weeks of the semester. Everybody was online, and then they transferred some. I think we went like 25% to in-person classes, but I personally did not have any in-person classes, so I was online through the entire semester. And I think right after Thanksgiving break, they moved it all again onto online, but again, that didn't affect me, so.
Thank you, Holly. Another one of our panelists want to go? Go ahead.
I can go next. Let me just say that UNC did not have the best COVID response in any way whatsoever. So they allowed students on campus for the first 2 weeks, and then they kicked us all out. So we had to go home. So that was kind of not good. But so we've had online classes since then, and online classes, I'm sure most of you know, aren't the best, but we adjust. But next semester, they're allowing some people back on campus. So it's going to be mainly online teaching. And how they do it is you can either have synchronous classes, which is at the same time, like every other day or something, you'll have that class, or asynchronous, where you do the work at your own pace and you meet up maybe once a week if there's anything the professor needs to tell you. And so that's how we're going to be doing things next semester.
Everyone's back at school, not right now. Everyone has been at school this whole semester. Well, I've been home, but for the most part, I would say it's 75% online. And then some like chemistry labs or like biology labs weren't able to be online. So those people are going into classrooms. But I think they've done a pretty good job with COVID testing and everything. And we're still, the only like difference that Penn State has made is that after Thanksgiving break, everyone went home who lives in a dorm, which because they can't control people in apartments. And everything is online. So if you had an in-person class, it went online. And then for next semester, they got rid of our spring break and they just made it a week later that we start the semester. And they already decided that it's going to be half hybrid and half online. So not a lot of in-person.
Yeah, so I've been home. I came home for spring break in March and never went back. So I finished freshman year online, had break, and then now I'm done the first semester of sophomore year. So I've been strictly virtual, nobody on campus, because like I said, there's less people at Spelman than there are at Wooten. So we don't require a huge campus typically. And because of that, we don't have the space to safely house everyone and still maintain like social distancing and all that. So Until recently, we were strictly virtual. And then they've been sending out like different surveys, like who do you think should have first priority if for whatever reason we can come back? So we've been doing a lot of those since last semester. And I think they finally came to the conclusion that we can safely house, I want to say like 25% of our population, which is like 350 people just about. So freshmen and seniors are getting first priority next semester. I think that's still the case. I kind of stopped paying attention once I realized that either way I wasn't going back. So yeah, I think that's what's happening. So some people may be on campus for the first time since March next semester. So we'll see how that goes.
While we're on the topic of distance learning, what do extracurricular activities look like for you all? Are you able to attend sporting events or get together with student clubs or play rec sports or anything like that? What does extracurricular activities look like in online learning?
So I had a roommate. She did gymnastics. She was on the club gymnastics team. And for the first few weeks, I was on campus before Thanksgiving break, and for the first few weeks, she was not allowed to practice. But then once we kind of figured out, a couple weeks in how to do it more safely, there were a few clubs that were allowed to meet, masks on, keeping distance, that kind of stuff. So there have been a few different clubs that have been allowed to meet, but we haven't been able, there's no attendance for basketball games or football games, so that kind of sucks. But it is what it is, and I understand why. So
anyone else?
I can talk. So UNC, as I said, is completely online currently. So all clubs have to be online. And since it's not like a teacher that's running each club, it's a bunch of students that are the president, vice president, all of that. So they decide what they want to do with their club. For example, I know there's like a drama club at UNC, and they put on a virtual play. I'm in an a cappella group at UNC, and we've been recording videos at home and putting up videos for people to see. But I also know other a cappella groups who have not done anything and are waiting to be back in person. So it really depends on which club you join. So once you get to college and you want to join a club, I would ask them if they're like holding practices or holding rehearsals to see if that's what you want to do.
There was another question that was asked in the chat, and I thought it was a great question. It was asking back again to looking at how Wooten prepared you for college. Were there particular AP classes or classes that you all took during your course of study at Wooten that you felt very much prepared you for college? And similarly, were there classes that you took you felt really didn't prepare you that well, or didn't prepare you as much as you thought that they might?
For me, I would say AP. I only took AP Lang, but I think if I had taken it earlier, I probably would have taken AP Lit. I would say definitely take AP Lang before you go to college, because to be honest, I don't think I truly learned how to write an essay before that class. And it doesn't really matter what your major is. You're going to have to take at least one English class while you're in college, so I would just take it. And then for the others, the only other two I took were AP Psych and AP Human Geo. And AP Human Geo, to be honest, did nothing for me because I didn't get credit from the exam, I don't think it really prepared me for what I wanted to do. And then AP Psych, if I had gotten a better score, I could have gotten out of Psych 100. So that's just getting credits for college classes.
And I do want to add on to that. AP Lang also was definitely a big thing for me too. But I would definitely research what colleges accept which ones, because I know UMD, they don't accept an AP Lit credit. They only accept AP Lang. So I think that's very important to research, what schools. And another thing, I'm actually very surprised at how many people don't actually know how to write an essay in college. And I actually do want to thank my English teachers, Mr. Hitchens, because I really do think that you guys helped us out a lot and made us better writers, because I'm really surprised at how many people don't know how to write a good quality essay in college.
Yeah, I cannot stress this enough. AP Lang is a class you want to take. AP Lang, but AP Lang is where it's at. And then I am also a pre-med, so that's pre-medical. So AP Chemistry and AP Bio, I'm so happy I took those classes because you have to, for pre-med, you have to take like general chemistry 1 and 2, analytical chemistry, organic chemistry. Like there's so many chemistries you have to take. And because I took AP Chem in high school and I got credit for that, I got out of the first 2 Chem classes. So now I'm not in as much of a rush to get all my prerequisites in before I have to take the MCAT. Same with AP Bio. And yeah, those 2 classes, if you're pre-med, I highly recommend.
You all are playing to your audience here as a former AP Lang teacher. So you should come back and tell all my students that. I think, that would help out a little bit. But thank you all for that. Mr. Roner, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was gonna moderate a little bit and give a shout out to Mr. Hitchens again. He is he's been at Wooten. He's a cornerstone of the building, and I'm just glad he is able to get recognized for that as well. So thank you guys for giving a shout out to him. There was another question in the chat that just talked about, like, did you guys focus on SAT over GPA or different extracurricular activities that help you in your application process? So this question is more about like what did you focus on or what did you emphasize when you started that process for applying? So the question talks about, the SAT versus GPA or both, and also all the possible maybe clubs you partaked in or other kind of activities. So if someone wants to jump on that question.
Yeah, I'll speak on it lightly. I know from my school specifically, they put a huge emphasis on saying we take a very holistic approach to your application. I can't speak for every college, I don't know, but the majority of colleges, I'm pretty sure, do take that approach. It's never just about, well, what'd you get on your SAT? No, sorry, I can't take you. It's never really about that. And I will say, if anybody is concerned about their SAT or ACT scores, please don't feel like it's the end of the world or like you can't go to college, because I tried my best, but I didn't know that I had test anxiety until senior year. So it didn't really help. And so I was like, why am I doing so bad on like these tests and all of these other things? But as long as you are trying your best, there's really nothing they can do in terms of telling you that this is not good enough. Now, some schools will say you have to have this and we're not budging. Fine. But most schools, if you know what they're looking for, they're not going to say you can't come simply because of your SAT score. I think GPA is more important because at the end of the day, you may have to justify, let's say if something happens and your grade slips a little bit and your GPA may go down, especially at that point when you are applying to schools, if I remember correctly, and you submit those grades and then they want your final transcript, and then that determines like, can you still come here? Because they do have the authority to say, why do you have all Fs all of a sudden now that we've accepted you? So GPA is important in that standpoint. But in terms of extracurriculars, I think commitment is usually more important than having a whole bunch of different clubs. Like you can be in, let's say like Pokemon club or something, and then be on the debate team. But if you've been hold on. Okay. Lost my train of thought. So what I'm saying is you can be in Pokemon club for all 4 of your years at high school, but someone else who has like 20 different clubs that they show no commitment to on their transcript or their application may not get in based on just the fact that they have a whole bunch of stuff. They're looking more for commitment usually than well-roundedness in that area. They want to see you actually have an interest in something. They want to use that to see who you are and what you like. It's not a scale to see how good you're going to be at something, but just what is this person interested in? And if you're very interested in Pokemon Club and you're determined to change the world through whatever you're going to do with Pokemon, fine, do that. Just be really passionate about it. But don't feel like you have to be in debate team and president of this and club member of this and volunteer for this in order to get into a good school. So be more holistic in your approach to college applications rather than honing in specifically on just GPA or just SAT or just your clubs or extracurriculars. Of course, try your best with everything, but don't worry if one falls by the wayside just a little bit if you're excelling a lot in a certain area.
And going off what Dave just said, GPA, SAT scores, that like just gets your foot in the door. What really gets colleges to accept you are your essays. So you have to make sure you're writing really good essays, and you have to write about something that you actually care about. So don't write the essay that you think they want to see. Like you don't have to write about some scholarly thing or whatever. I wrote my essays on superheroes and cartoons, and I did just fine. So just write about something that you enjoy, that you're passionate about, and you'll be fine.
Great responses. Thank you. Thank you both. There is another question in there about dual enrollment, and I don't know if any of you participate in the dual enrollment. I'm seeing one say okay. For everyone, I just want to explain what dual enrollment is in general, and then I'll let the panelists answer. Dual enrollment is a partnership with Montgomery College that allows high school students to take courses and also receive credit. It is for students who are ready for that college work. And there's a few requirements to be able to meet before you're eligible to take those courses. So that is dual enrollment. So I'm going to let Holly speak a little bit about that, if that's okay.
Yeah, so I did dual enrollment my senior year, and I did a business class, and it was actually pretty useful information. I didn't really actually need the credit, but you know, there are other classes that you can get the college credit for. I just didn't really need it, but it was interesting to take, and I think it gave me, you know, just a little bit of insight on how exactly a college class works, and like the workload, because I think that workload was definitely a little bit more than I was used to. So having that step up, taking dual enrollment, I think helped a little bit to get that insight.
The next question is, do you have any regrets? Are there things that you wish you did, or things that you wish you didn't do in high school? And I think that's probably an academic question, right? To look at academics or extracurricular activities, the things. So do you have regrets, things that you wish you did, or things that you wish you didn't do?
For me, the first thing that came to mind was study for the SAT more, because I got a tutor, but then I did nothing with that tutor. And I think if I got a better score, I would have had more options. But for academics wise, I think maybe not to stress as much, because I haven't been in Wooten for a while. And looking back on it, like I didn't need to be that stressed out, or I didn't need to be so upset about not having as many APs as other people. Like, take the APs that you want. Don't just like take them to take them, because then you're just screwing yourself. And I guess another, which isn't really academic, but maybe joining more clubs. You just like get out there. Yeah.
For me, my regret is that I wish I didn't stay up doing assignments. Like you have to set a time, and then like I think senior year I said at 12 o'clock. If it wasn't done by 12, it's just not going to get done today. I'm sorry, teachers, it's not going to get done. I value sleep more. So in my junior year, I wish I didn't pull a bunch of all-nighters. Yeah, don't do that. Just sleep. Sleep is very good for your health.
Thank you guys for that. We have another question, and this one I'm interested too, what you guys are going to say. You know, we talk about the grading reporting system of MCPS a lot, especially now. We talk about how many assignments you get, and you know, how much are they weighed. So can one of you, maybe two of you, talk about some of the assignments and how you earn your grade? And you know, is it what we all hear? It's only four assignments for your entire semester grade. Does someone want to chime in? Maybe give us an example of one of your courses.
Yeah, I'll just say that I personally don't think it's harder. I actually really appreciate my grading system at my school, because I can't remember what my GPA was in high school, but it went up significantly once I got to college. And I'm not sure if that was just a matter of not being so spread thin like I was in high school, doing all these clubs and different things, but having the time to study and the time to go to my professors if I needed that was really helpful for me. So in that sense, no, I don't think it's harder, but it really depends on the professor. I personally haven't had any classes where it's like you take this test and then you're done and that's it. Hope you get a good grade. I haven't had any experiences like that, but I will say that grading tends to be a bit more, I don't want to say harsh because that sounds like scary, but I'll say it's a bit, there's more expected of you. I'll say that. But the good thing about it is that they typically, in my experience, give really good feedback, and it's helpful because you can go back and read that feedback and then the next time, and then they keep in mind like, okay, this is what this person was struggling with last time. It feels like your education tends to be a bit more personalized depending on the class. And so like I said, I go to a small school, so somebody who goes somewhere bigger may have to chime in and tell me I'm wrong, but I think it's easier because I'm also in college. Your education is a lot more personalized in the sense that you get to pick what you're doing. So it's probably something you enjoy if you pick a major that you like initially. So you might actually find that you enjoy studying because you're actually interested in the information and it doesn't feel so hard to read this book or read this thing. So yeah, I thought it was easier, but like I said, that was just my experience.
Adding on to what Dajah said, it really does depend on the professor. Like my English professor right now, she's actually a really easy grader. But I can't say that for, every single professor. It's just kind of individual. But for example, like in my business class that I'm taking right now, I just had a group project. We got it at the beginning of the year and we just presented it like last week or something like that. And those projects, they tend to be a bit higher. I think it was like 150, 200 points, but you do have a lot of other leeway because in that same class, like a lot of the discussion board posts, as long as you do them, you get the 10 points. So, there's a lot of different ways that you can get extra points. And if you reach out to your professors, if you're like struggling with points, I'm sure they are more than willing to talk to you about how you can get extra credit in some other way. So I think reaching out is definitely another important idea.
My experience was kind of different. So I have to take a bunch of, well, let me just tell you, this semester, one of my classes, the final was worth about 30% of our grade. And in a different math class, the finals were 50% of our grade. So like your exams are weighted pretty heavily in STEM classes. Like I know for intro chem, they have 2 or 3 midterms and then a final. And then that makes up about maybe 80% of your grade. And the last 20% is participation and homework. So I know that seems daunting, but it's not necessarily harder to get an A because let's say you do really badly on one exam. A lot of times teachers will allow you to like maybe drop a midterm grade or replace it with a different grade, or they curve exam grades. So it's not necessarily harder to get an A, but I do feel that exams are weighted pretty heavily.
And I actually just wanted to add one more thing to that. I know somebody said this last year on the panel, and I wanted to say it this year, but a lot of people, might freak out if they don't get an A or B in a college level class, but sometimes that college class is hard. So it's okay if you get a C in that class. Like sometimes it's even expected to get a C. And I know that's very difficult, especially for me to hear that because, in high school, I was basically a straight A student with a few B's here and there. So hearing that you can get a C is very scary, but it's okay if you do because, sometimes the college level classes they're hard. So it's okay if that's a C is actually a pretty good grade in some classes.
Finish that part off. I would say it's so different. It really depends on your class. And honestly, with the virtual, it's even more different. I took a stat 200 class last semester that I hated it with all my heart. It was 7 exams. It was like every 2 weeks. I hated it. And then I was talking to someone who's taking it this semester, all virtual, and they only have 4 exams. And all the grading has turned into homework and other things. So it's so different. And I would say office hours are a big thing. I don't think it's like a major thing to like sway your teachers, but they definitely notice if you're going in and you're asking questions. Um, Even like the virtual Zoom hours, like it still helps. And I would just check like at the beginning of the semester, see how many assignments you have, see how the grading is, because if homework's not that big of a deal or isn't as graded as highly, like it's okay to skip like one or two, but make sure you're doing amazing on those exams. Yeah.
And one last thing I want to add, sorry. Every class will give you a syllabus at the beginning that will tell you exactly what you need to know for the entire class, when homework is due, when you have your exams, how much every single thing is worth. So when you get your syllabus at the start of a semester, you need to read that. Like, not memorize it, but like you have to go over it and read it and understand your class, know when office hours are, and that's how you be successful.
That thank you guys for all of you sharing those experiences. It just goes to show you how different experiences are, you know, with the size of college, where the college is, different professors within the college. And it's truly different and depends on every course, the subject. So thank you for sharing that, because I think that in itself is an important. We got a lot of great questions too coming in. I guess one of the next question that came in was just about, you know, managing your time. And I know you guys touch up on a little bit. So, you know, if you guys could talk about, maybe one of you just talk about, or two of you talk about like how you manage your time to make sure you're doing everything you want throughout the day and still being successful in college.
I think an important thing for me that really helped me manage my time was I'd be constantly writing to-do lists and just things, and I would prioritize it to things that were due either that night or the next morning. And then, you know, if I had time, once I finished those, then I would do ones that were due like the weekend or whatever. So I think it's definitely important to like write down what you have to do, and definitely prioritize it in terms of what's due first and what you have to get out of the way first. And then obviously allow yourself some free time in between each of those things, or however much time you need, because you know doing all this work online can get pretty difficult sometimes. So you know, giving yourself a break is definitely a good idea too.
Have a sleep schedule, please. Don't stay up. I get it's okay. You don't have to pull an all-nighter. I promise. I've literally never done that before, and I'm doing perfectly fine. Just have a schedule, and kind of what Holly was saying. One thing that I like to do is, well, because I had the opportunity to go on campus and kind of get in the rhythm of college, I had a schedule on campus, and then I just kept that as I came home. So I have a sleep schedule. I have obviously a class schedule, and I know when I do my homework and when I do other things. So have a schedule. But I think the main thing about transitioning online is it's so easy to sit there in front of your computer all day and want to get things done, but don't forget to eat, or like don't forget to take a break. Go outside for a second, even if it's just for 5 minutes. One thing that I like to do is called Pomodoro like study sessions, where you have like 25 minutes and then 5 minutes. And I hate taking breaks, but it helps so much. Like sometimes I'm like, I just want to get this done, but then I take the 5 minutes and I'm like, okay, I can do this now. Like it's fine. So give yourself grace to take breaks and also make mistakes every once in a while, because there's not going to be perfect. It's really going to just be a learning curve.
What do you like to do to play, to have fun? What are you involved in? What do you still have time for? And I think that would be a great question to go out on. So please let us know what you're interested in and what you still.
I can start. For me, most of my free time is spent doing two things. First, singing. As I mentioned earlier, I'm in an a cappella group. So where every week we have something to either arrange or to learn, record, all of that. So I do that a lot of the time. And the second thing is one of the members of my a cappella group got us all hooked on Among Us. So like every night we play that for a good 2-3 hours. Like after this, in about an hour, I'm supposed to play. So that's what I spend a lot of time doing as well.
Osagie, what a cappella group are you in, if you don't mind me asking?
The Tarpeggios.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
I like to I like make these like canvas things, which I usually give out as gifts. So you definitely have like, some time to yourself to, you know, do whatever you want, and I think the question asked, have you become more serious? And I don't think so.
Maybe if we can just start off with, if you guys can talk a little bit about, and I know it's actually great to see, not that our other panelists, there was anything wrong, but they were freshmen. And it's nice to see some sophomores, so you guys can give a little bit of a perspective of like pre-COVID, what it was really like. And then Osagie, you and Dave, you guys can talk a little bit about currently, and everybody can talk really about that. So maybe just the first question, just tell us a little bit about what college life has been like for you. And you can say from your freshman year to this year, or just in general.
I can start. So I remember my very first day in-person classes last year. I didn't start until 3 p.m. My first class wasn't until 3. So I had the whole day and I was just freaking out. And then once I realized, like once I went through the first class, it was essentially like high school, just, maybe a little bit bigger in terms of the class size. But the material and, the other stuff, teaching wise, it really was not that different from high school. And, that's kind of similar now, even though we're all online classes. I think a lot of people think college is like this really high standard, high level, so different from high school. But in all honesty, it's really not that different from high school.
Well, that's because you were prepared so well from Wooten, right? Yeah, that's the reason why. I had to get that in. Come on.
I would say, for me, I thought the classes were similar to high school, but it was all the walking that was very different. Penn State's a bigger campus, so like how on your phone it tells you how many miles if you have that set up. On my first day, I went to all of my classes just to see where they were, and it said I walked like 11 miles by the end of the day. So my legs were very nice by the end of the semester, but that doesn't work anymore because I just sit in a chair every day. But yeah, I would say school last year and school this year are very different, but I think Woon definitely helped with some of the classes that are smaller, because some of my classes were like 25 kids and it felt like I was high school again. Then I had like my SAIC 100 that was like 300 people that I was not as prepared for.
Yeah, I guess I can second and third what they were saying, that it's not as different as you would think. I got to college a week before class started because we have it set up where we go. So our orientation is a week long and we basically just do fun stuff for the whole week and it's just freshmen on campus. And I genuinely forgot that we had class. Like I forgot that we showed up there to go to school. So it was a good way to get into college and get used to being on campus. And the transition was not as drastic as I was expecting it to be, kind of like what Mr. Mamana said in a joking manner, but it was because Wooten was very good about preparing us for that transition. So the college mindset at Wooten really does translate well to the real college environment.
They covered pre-COVID. I can talk about, I'm sure you heard from the other panelists, online school, it's terrible, but we have to adjust. And as long as you make sure you take breaks and don't sit at your computer all day, every day, like, so in between classes, like get out, walk around, go outside, maybe, it's not as bad. And I think there's, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to talk about the question in chat about which classes, APs that we took in high school that we're glad about. I think all the panelists agreed. We had this question in the last session. AP Lang is a really big one. It teaches you how to write an essay. And when you get to college, you realize that not everyone knows how to write. Wooten really prepares you in that sense. And if you're, I'm just plugging, if you're pre-med, AP Chem and AP Bio are really good to take because it gets you out of those introductory classes so you can move on to more advanced chemistry and biology.
So it sounds like several of you got credit for your AP classes. I know every university college is different, but for probably at least one or two of your AP classes, if not most of them, counted for some type of credit.
Mine did not.
Hmm.
So it's important to look at the school. It also depends on what score you got on the exam. However, I will say, so I am a Spanish major, and even though I took AP Spanish in high school, I didn't get credit for the classes, but it kind of levels out because so I had a level of Spanish fluency that got me into a 300 level class as soon as I got to college. So like it leveled out. Even though I didn't get like the credit for the AP class, I still learned enough in the class to sustain me from or keep me from having to take 1 and 200 level classes once I got to college. So it kind of leveled out in that sense.
Dajah, did you have to take like an entry exam and then they determine that?
Yeah, so the way it works is I took so before we got to campus, I want to say in maybe like July or early August, we took an online math test and an online language like placement test to see. And then I know specifically for the language placement test, if you score above a certain number, they don't tell you that number, but if you score above a certain number on that placement exam online, then you have to go in and take an oral exam. And so I ended up scoring whatever the number was and then taking the oral exam. And that's actually how I became a Spanish major. So.
And really quick, I do want to add, I mentioned this in the previous group, but you definitely do want to look at what credits they accept because, for example, University of Maryland, where I go, I know that they don't take both AP Lang and AP Lit credits. They only take AP Lang. So it's definitely important to look what courses your college accepts.
I can definitely second that because not only that, you also need a certain score on the test or else it doesn't count. Like for example, the AP Psych test, I got a 3, and if I had gotten a 4, I could have gotten out of Psych 100. So it depends on what score you get to, which sucks because then I didn't get anything off.
Yeah, but Lauren, you're a psych major.
Oh, it
right?
helped with that because I figured out what I wanted to do.
Right.
But yeah, so I was fine taking Psych 100.
Okay. Good. I think it goes back to what Dajah was saying is even though they didn't accept everything, a lot of those, especially if you have a passion or you want a particular area, it helped in those areas. That's really good. I agree with Holly. I think the best that if you can do that beforehand to find out what courses are accepted and whatnot always helps out. Can maybe you guys talk a little bit about your day? I know, Osagie, you had talked a little bit about it. I won't use the terminology that you said online, but it wasn't the best. It's not the best. But maybe you guys just tell us a little bit about your day, especially for you sophomores, maybe tell us a little bit about, last year, how maybe your day was. A typical day for a college freshman or sophomore.
So I would say when we were actually in person last year, like I said, I didn't have classes every day. My classes didn't start till 3 because I was in a different program called Freshman Connection at UMD. And I did have some late classes. I think my latest one went until 8:45 p.m. So that was a little bit rough. But again, you just have to manage your time because with college, you have a lot of open time because you created your own schedule. So there's a lot of open space either in the morning or evening. And I think it's really important to set some time aside and get some work done and not just say like, oh, I'll do it later, because that later will creep up on you pretty quickly. So
Yeah, I'll just say one thing that I liked to do and I still try to do is have my classes kind of either shifted towards the morning. Don't recommend it. I don't do it. But if you're a morning person, I mean, I'm a morning person, but getting up early to go to class is much harder than you think in college because your friends are like right upstairs. It's hard to, but I'll say shifting your classes having like a chunk of class time is so much easier than spreading all your classes out throughout the day. It gets long and tiresome very quickly. So if you prefer morning classes, try to get all your classes as close to the morning as possible and get it done with by 12 o'clock if you're that kind of person. Or if you're a more afternoon night kind of person, try to start at 12 and have all your classes in that chunk afterwards or whenever. It makes it so much easier because I know I had like, as a freshman, I had a class that was over at, let's say, like 3, and then I had another class at like 6:45 that went until like 7:30, 8 o'clock, and that time was blissful. But when it came to get up again or leave my room again for that 6:30 or whatever time I said class, it was so painful. Like, it was so hard to come back into work mode after I had been done since 2 or 3 o'clock, especially because it's dark outside and people are done for the day. They're hanging out with their friends. Like, sometimes you can't avoid it, and sometimes you just have to take that class because it's the only one. But if you can, try to put your classes together. That way you can get them all started and over with at a relatively decent time.
I think there's a huge emphasis on where you go, because if you're at a bigger school and you're coming in as a freshman, you don't have as many options with time. Like how Penn State works, it depends on how many credits you have. So now that I'm a sophomore, so say you have 0 credits, you're going to be the last people to schedule, which means you'll be stuck with the nasty 8 a.m.s and like gross 9 a.m.s. But as a sophomore, I was able to get a beautiful schedule starting at 12, which doesn't matter because I'm home. But it really depends on who you are and what you can do. Because when you have an 8 a.m. that you got stuck with and it's a class you hate and you have to wake up and it's snowing outside, you don't want to walk, you're not going to go to that class. Just don't take an 8 a.m. if you know you're not going to get out of bed. But sometimes you can't. Like, that class was the only option and I had to take it. So sometimes you just get screwed.
Kind of along with that, the one thing I will quickly say is, in terms of being on campus, try to schedule your classes to match, or like the space in between your classes to match the size of your campus. And when I say that, if you go to a school like Penn State, don't schedule your classes 10 minutes apart if you know that the other one is all the way on the other side of campus. You're going to kill yourself trying to run to the next class. It's not worth it. So for me, that's easier to do because I go to a small school. So my classes literally are like one building over and it's fine. But even still, I still struggle with like those 10-minute classes, because if you want to talk to your professor after class quickly, those minutes add up and now you're late to your next class. So just be mindful of where the classes are and how much time you're scheduling in between each one.
For me, about online classes, I thought that I would want to have all my classes in the afternoon. So like for my freshman first semester, I scheduled so I had all my classes after 1 p.m. So I slept in until noon every day, and then I started my day. But as the semester went on, I realized that getting up late makes me not want to do work. And so by the time all my classes were over, I just wanted to lay in bed and watch movies instead of studying or doing homework. So I realized that wasn't for me. And next semester I changed it so I have all my classes in like from 9 to 1, so that I can work in the morning and then do my homework or study. And then I'm finished with all my schoolwork by maybe 5 o'clock. And so I have the evenings for myself. So that way I know I'll be on top of my work. Because as you get higher in college, you're going to be taking harder classes that require more studying, have more assignments, and you don't want to lose your time management skills.
About classes, what help and support did you get in choosing the classes that you took in your freshman year?
When I was making my classes, I was stressing out because I really just did not know, kind of what route to take and which ones were best for me. And everyone has a advisor that they're assigned to, so they really do help you. And I met with mine in person, and even now I have to meet with an advisor every time before I schedule my classes. So they really help you like walk through exactly, like they walk through your 4-year plan, the classes that you should register to take the upcoming semester, and kind of just what your future looks like. So they're really helpful, and they'll really help you figure out what you should take.
For us, the orientation, you have to go to it. It was during the summer for us. And when you go, you sit down with your advisor who you're going to have for the rest of college, and they do it with you. So it wasn't even like you're doing it yourself. They're like, you're coming to this and we're doing it, and we're going to sit next to you and hold your hand and do it for you. And I will say, if you know what you're doing, like I'm a psych major and I knew going into college I was going to do that, you could literally look up suggested academic plan, psychology major, Penn State, and it comes with like, tells you everything you should take. It obviously depends on what you want to take, what you can and can't, but that's like an option, and that helps a lot.
You go to a school like mine where advisors are unfortunately notorious for not knowing how to do their jobs. We have a few options. So the main thing that I use is I don't know what other schools have it or don't, but it's not like a thing you Google. It's a institution specific thing, but it actually lists, like, it says this is your major, and then for me my other major, and then my minor, and it says these are all the classes you still need to take. And then I literally just treat it like a checklist, and every semester I'm like, okay, what can I fit in here? What can I fit in here? And honestly, I personally don't feel like I need an advisor, because like I said, most of the time they have questions, or you have a question and they're like, well, did you ask this person? And I'm like, yeah, but you're my advisor. And so that's the thing about college, is sometimes communication gets weird between faculty members. And so you kind of have to fill in the blanks where they don't know how to help you in certain areas. So yeah, using resources, I think like what Lauren mentioned about the Googling the Penn State thing, or seeing what options your school has for how to keep track of your classes. Because I know also in like the first week, when we met with our advisors, they gave us a list of the classes that we had to take for that major. And so keeping track of that list and treating it like a to-do list, basically, manage my classes. Yeah.
Was how difficult was it for you to adjust when you're so far away from home? Now, Holly, I know you're at University of Maryland. You're not too far, but you know, Dajah, you're at in Georgia. In Osagie, you're in North Carolina, and Penn State is couple hours away. Maybe you guys can talk a little bit about that. Not that anybody would get homesick.
I guess I'll start. Yeah, Spelman is in Atlanta. Like I said, it's about a 10 to 12 hour drive, depending on who's driving and what the traffic looks like. But it's not close. And I'm not a homesick type of person. I genuinely can say that I never got homesick while I was gone. The only struggle that I found, though, was that, so most of the people who go to Spelman either live in Florida or they're from somewhere close. So they usually have family, they usually have family friends, somebody that they know. But I intentionally went somewhere where I knew not a soul showing up. So the only thing that got hard was not having anybody to help me with simple things, like if I needed a ride to the airport, or if I wanted to go to this place, I had to pay the $20 Uber to get there and then the $20 Uber to get back. Or if I wanted to do my laundry for free for a weekend, because who doesn't want to do their laundry for free? That wasn't an option for me, because I didn't have anybody to just, hey, you want me to pick up your laundry? I didn't have that. So and then like going to the airport, having like the suitcase, and then like the move-in day and all that kind of stuff, or move out for like short breaks. My parents are not flying or driving from Maryland to move me out for 3 days. So having to just be independent in that way was really a good thing. But it can be hard sometimes when everyone around you is like, well, I'm going here this weekend and my aunt or whoever's picking me up, and I'm like, have fun, let me know how it goes, because I don't have anybody here. So, but like I said, I'm not a homesick person, so that didn't really bother me all that much. It was a learning curve, but do be aware of that. If you're moving somewhere that's far and you don't know anybody there, you will have to kind of fend for yourself in that sense. So yeah.
I mean, I know I'm, 30 minutes away, but just, I know like so many freshmen, when they first go to college, whatever college they go to, even if it's close to home, it is pretty nerve-wracking, which is totally understandable because it's a totally new experience. But literally, like, once you get through the first 2 days, it's like old hat, and you find your groove, you find your people, and you really, time kind of flies by super quickly. And again, I'm close to home, so I can't really talk too much about that aspect. But yeah, you will find your people and just make a lot of connections. So it's not too hard to fit in.
I was on campus for only 2 weeks, so I can't really speak about it either. But while I was there, one thing I did miss was my mom's cooking, because I had to eat at the dining hall or like eat out every day. And like for the first week, it was fun, but you start to miss home cooked meals. So cherish those while you have them. Cherish them.
Going to college is not about having the right answer, rather about having the right questions. It's not about, in high school, I feel like you have to be able to raise your hand and say, oh, I know the answer to this equation or whatever. But going to college is not about always knowing the answer, but rather where to find it and how to get it and who to ask for it. Being a scholar, if you will, is not, you aren't really learning much if you know the answer. So you have to have questions, and learning how to ask the right questions to get the answer is what I feel like most of college is about, rather than having the answer to everything, because now you're getting into deeper water, you're getting into bigger things. Don't expect to know the answer to everything. Don't feel like you have to be the smartest person in your class in order to get somewhere, because I kind of like not being the smartest person in my class, because I like hearing everyone else and learning from everybody else around me. I feel like that's where the bulk of education comes in once you leave high school, rather than being that person to volunteer and raise your hand for every single answer.
Another thing I would add, advice to seniors, I would definitely, I know it gets hard once you get accepted into colleges and you really just kind of want to slack off a little bit. But I really would try to like keep going. And I know it's easier said than done, but I would definitely, try to keep pushing forward, because the colleges, even though you've already been accepted, they do still look back at your transcript and see, if you, got lower grades later on, they might, ask you why that happened. So I think it's important to just, keep going as hard as you can.
Colleges can change their mind about your admission if your grades go down. I'll just say that.
But don't let that scare you. It's only like if you go from all A's to like straight D's.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't do but my piece of advice is about connecting with people in college. So you have to understand that all the freshmen coming in also don't have a bunch of friends. So like everyone is looking for someone else to connect with. And being online is actually not, for connecting with people is kind of easier because you can see their names on your screen. So like what I usually do in classes, if I find someone and I like what they're saying or I can connect with them, I look them up on Instagram, follow them, and then just start a conversation. It's easier than it sounds because everyone is looking for a friend.
I was just gonna say, I guess it's kind of pessimistic, but not to expect the idyllic college experience, because not everyone, like I love college, I miss it, but I feel like if you're going and expected to meet best friends with your roommate and find your people the first day and love all your classes, like it's not gonna happen. But you will find it, or you will find friends, but don't push yourself to like, I know what I was going to say, but don't expect like the ideal college experience. You will have a version of it, but it's not going to be like the movies or anything like that.
Just as a sort of earlier in the previous session, one of the students doesn't take her major or doesn't declare her major until the end of the sophomore year. How many of you declared your major when you went, or how many were a little bit longer?
I'm actually technically not in the College of Education yet. I'm like taking classes for it. I have an education advisor, but I don't actually apply to the College of Education until this upcoming May. So it really depends on your major, on when you would have to apply. I know some people are already in the college and they came in as a freshman, so it really just depends.
I came in as a psych major, and to be honest, I don't remember my minor. I've changed it like 4 times, but I came in as a psych major, and then like I was saying to Miss Romana earlier, I actually became a Spanish major by recommendation of the Spanish department chair once I got there and did my oral exam. So I came in knowing psychology was where I wanted to be, but then I changed my concentration a couple times. I changed my major or my minor a couple times, and then I added a major. And so, give it time if you don't know what you want to do, because I came in knowing what I wanted to do, and I still changed it and added to it and kind of flipped it around a little bit. So, and also be open to the advice of the advisors, because like I said, when my department chair looked at me and said, "We'd love to have you as a major," I said, "You must be crazy. I have a major, thank you though." But really, it's been extremely amazing adding that to my resume and adding that to my list of things that I'm able to do. So had it not been for her recommendation, even though I thought she was crazy initially, I would never have done it. So if you don't know, look to the people ahead of you. Ask upperclassmen, they're not scary. Ask advisors, ask professors even. If you're doing well in a class, ask them what they think, and just take it all as you will. But be open, because if you think one thing and then they tell you something else, don't immediately shut it down, because they might know what they're talking about. So